The content in this video is for general educational use. It does not represent political opinions or judgments about any country, culture, or government. Information is based on publicly available sources and may be summarized or simplified. Viewers should verify details through multiple sources.
So let's talk about Dubai. You know, it's a city that's basically synonymous with big, bold ambition. It has this incredible master plan for massive economic growth. But behind all those shimmering skyscrapers and megaprojects, there's another story. It's about the complex human engine that's supposed to power it all. And that's where we find the real dilemma. And when we say plan, the vision is just staggering. We're talking about a goal to become the central hub of the entire global economy. This isn't just about a little bit of growth here and there. This is a plan to completely reshape its economic landscape, building bigger, smarter, and faster than pretty much anyone else.
You know, with a plan this massive, you'd probably think the main hurdles would be financial, right? Or maybe logistical. You know, getting the investment, building the infrastructure. But what our sources point to is something way more fundamental, something that you can't just solve by throwing money at it.
Yup, it all comes down to the people. The single biggest variable in Dubai's whole equation for success is its workforce. Finding, managing, and, motivating the right talent, that's the real challenge. It's the intricate human machinery that this entire ambitious project depends on.
Okay, so first, let's just unpack this grand vision. What does that actually mean, to become the undisputed center of global business? Well, the plan for the next decade is incredibly specific. And the scale here is just immense. This isn't small ball. Doubling foreign trade, that's a monumental task. Fostering 30 global unicorns, that's like trying to build Silicon Valley from the ground up, and fast. And all of this is supposed to be powered by a shift towards sustainable industries. It's a blueprint for a complete economic reinvention. But look, to make any of that a reality, you need a world-class workforce. And that brings us to the second piece of the puzzle, the people puzzle. How in the world do you attract and keep the best and brightest from all over the globe to fuel this engine of growth? On paper, the mission for companies there is simple. Go out and find the absolute best people in the world. But the competition for that kind of top-tier talent is fierce, not just in Dubai, but everywhere. It's a global fight. And here's where we see a major disconnect. While the goal is to attract talent, the actual hiring process can do the exact opposite. This quote from an HR manager in the UAE, it just nails the problem. An exhausting 9-round interview process, it can completely burn out the very star candidates you're trying so hard to impress. This lays out the gap between the ideal and the reality so perfectly. On one hand, you want a smooth, agile, professional process. But on the other, what many candidates actually experience is this confusing, stressful marathon. And the really crucial point here is that the very system designed to find top talent might actually be driving it away. Okay, so it's not just about the hiring process itself. There are these really unique local dynamics at play too. To really understand the business environment in the UAE, you have to get your head around a complex mix of cultural norms and government policies that directly shape the workforce. So, first, there's this concept of wasta. Essentially, it's about using your personal connections and your influence to get things done, and that very much includes hiring. It's a huge factor in the business culture of the entire region. And while, sure, it can open doors for some, it can also create serious problems inside a company. Like this HR manager points out, when people feel like hiring is based on who you know, not what you know, it can create these deep divisions and a ton of resentment within a team. And that, of course, hits morale and performance hard. The second huge factor here is Emiratization. This is a major government initiative, and it's all about increasing the number of Emirati citizens working in the private sector. They do this by requiring companies to meet specific hiring quotas. So how does it work? Well, the policy uses a few different tools. It sets these clear targets and quotas, it sometimes reserves certain jobs only for nationals, and it even offers things like wage subsidies to make hiring Emirati citizens more appealing for private companies. It's a really big top-down push. But here's where it gets really challenging for companies. Just look at this data. A survey found that a whopping 94% of CEOs rely heavily on workers from other countries.
At the same time, only 12% said they were satisfied with the pool of skilled Emirati employees. I mean, that highlights a massive perceived gap between the policy's goals and the reality on the ground.
So you have to ask, why does this gap even exist? Well, a lot of the research points right back to the education system. For some of these really specialized roles that companies are desperate to fill, the needed skills just haven't been taught in local universities. So you end up with a structural mismatch between the talent companies need and the talent that's available locally. So, let's say you've somehow navigated that recruiting maze. You're balancing the cultural dynamics and the government quotas, and now you have this incredibly diverse workforce. Well, the final challenge is actually managing them effectively, day in and day out.
A theme that just keeps coming up in the research is how incredibly difficult it is to create systems for performance and pay that everyone sees as fair and transparent. I mean, think about it. In such a multicultural environment, what motivates one person might not work at all for someone else.
But here's the thing. When you actually look at what drives performance, the answers are pretty universal. People want clear expectations from their managers. They want to have a say in their own goals. They want to feel like their pay and any rewards are fair. And they want chances to learn and grow. The challenge isn't really knowing what to do. It's figuring out how to do it consistently for everyone.
And this is exactly where culture comes roaring back into the picture. This quote just captures the difference perfectly. The global push for more transparency, especially around salaries, runs right up against these deeply ingrained cultural norms. What's become standard practice in one part of the world can be, as they put it, fairly taboo in another. And that makes a one-size-fits-all approach almost impossible.
So all of this brings us right back to our central question. Dubai's ambition? It's undeniable. It's a magnet for capital, for opportunity. But as this global war for talent just gets more and more intense, the real question is, can its internal systems, its hiring practices, its cultural dynamics, its workforce policies, can they all evolve fast enough to keep pace with that ambition? That, right there, is the Dubai dilemma.